What's up, Taiwan? I'm Ethan Liu with 10 minutes of news from here in Taiwan and around the world. Taiwan's COVID task force held its last public meeting on Thursday. The group is disbanding after 3 years of handling the country's pandemic response. Eric Gao has this report.
It's
the end of an era. After more than 1,200 days, Taiwan's pandemic response task force is finally closing its doors. It's been holding regular press conferences since January 2020, helping keep the country informed about the latest developments during the COVID-19 outbreak. But now that the pandemic situation has stabilized, the group's work is done.
虽然指挥中心解编之后，我们还是会持续的监测相关的疫情。
Studies suggest Taiwan's public appreciates the task force's efforts. A recent poll shows over 70% of Taiwanese think the country's pandemic response was better than in other places.
除了我们指挥中心以外，还有政府其他机构以外，我想都是全民一起努力出来的这个成果。
Former Health Minister Chen Shizhong, who headed the task force for more than 2 years, showed up on its final day. He said it was a lot of hard work to keep Taiwan's pandemic under control.
其实背后里面包含很多的决策，里面决策也有痛苦，也有辛苦，也有辛酸，但是都代表我们对人民的负责。
And now, with its mission complete, the team is able to celebrate a job well done. Rick Yi and Eric Gao for TaiwanPlus.
The suicide of a renowned Taiwanese artist has sparked debate over euthanasia in Taiwan. John Van Trist has this report.
A suicide that shocked Taiwan. After years of poor health, acclaimed sculptor Zhu Ming took his life Saturday. He was 85 years old. But in addition to mourning Zhu's loss, the case has also sparked a debate about euthanasia. Some, including lawmaker Wen Yuxia, say it's time for Taiwan to legalize the practice. Euthanasia isn't a new issue in the country. In 2018, sportscaster Fu Daren flew to Switzerland to end his life amid a fight with terminal cancer. He was also 85. Fu Sun says doctors were unable to stop his father's suffering. The health minister says dying patients can legally opt out of life-extending treatment. But he says euthanasia is different because a doctor has to be actively involved. Some doctors are also voicing concern over the issue.
如果真的通过了这个法案，那你真的要请医师来执行，医师还不一定会去，应该也有一个拒绝的权利啦。因为像你如果说叫我来结束这个生命，说实在我们真的于心不忍。
Despite another round of discussion, Taiwan remains deeply split on whether legalizing euthanasia is something it can accept. Ethan Pan and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
Several foreign powers have had control in Taiwan over its history. The Dutch, the Chinese, and the Japanese all had their impact on the island nation. Yet some are remembered more kindly than others. Bing Wang finds out why.
This is the presidential office of Taiwan, in the heart of the capital, Taipei. It's where the president and vice president work and where foreign delegations meet with high-level Taiwanese officials. The building was completed in 1919 by Japanese architect Yuheji Nagano during the 50-year period of Japanese rule of Taiwan.
It all started with the Japanese occupation era, which started in 1895. This presidential palace, when it began, it used to be a smaller scale residential property, and then over the years became the presidential palace.
The Japanese ruled Taiwan until 1945, when they were forced to give it up after losing World War II.
Initial Japanese rule involved ruling over Taiwanese subjects who didn't want to be ruled by the Japanese. So this is the first decade or two following 1895. There were a large number of revolts and insurrections against Japanese rule that were violently put down by the Japanese military.
By the third decade, the Japanese had built schools, hospitals, and developed infrastructure, beneficial vestiges that are still used today. This is Chidong Street, right in the capital of Taipei. It serves as a reminder of Japanese colonial rule over Taiwan, where these houses used to host civil servants and high-level officials from Japan. But the Japanese also left their mark in other ways, from the food Taiwanese people eat and the sports that are played.
The Taiwanese is deeply, profoundly influenced by the Japanese. The entire culture, not just the architecture, the city planning, the artwork, the history, all of the artistic treasures in the daily life are mainly like that.
But in 1949, a few years after World War II, Taiwan was flooded by some 2 million people from China. They were led by Chiang Kai-shek of the Kuomintang, or KMT, who lost the Chinese Civil War to the Communist Party. Thus began a 40-year period of oppressive rule known as the White Terror, when the KMT jailed dissidents and imposed Chinese culture and the Mandarin language.
Chiang Kai-shek's rule firsthand, and many of them have obviously very negative experiences living under the White Terror, living under a very brutal authoritarian regime. Many, I should say, much fewer people have experienced Japanese rule firsthand.
These days, government statistics show 60% of Taiwanese see Japan in a favorable light, and only 35% feel similarly inclined towards China. Taiwan is still working to reconcile its painful history, balancing nostalgia for its colonial Japanese past, with the wounds inflicted by more recent oppressors. The KMT is still a presence in Taiwanese society, and while debate rages over maintaining the monuments to its brutal legacy, there are fewer questions here about keeping the landmarks left by the Japanese. Andy Shi and Bing Wang for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan has a new equestrian champion. Riding a horse is never easy, but for Wu Lingkai it was made even more difficult by her hearing impairment. Leslie Liao has more.
At 152 centimeters tall, Wu Lingkai needs a little help getting on her horse. But once she's up there, she's off to the races. Horse riding is second nature to her. She can gallop, trot, and traverse obstacles with confidence and ease. She makes it look easy now, but Wu struggled when she first learned to ride. She has had a hearing impairment from a young age.
我耳朵听不到，不太自信，然后有一个马术带给我一个自信的擅长，可以站在舞台上面，这一方面会比较自信。
Wu got a hearing implant when she was 2 years old. Her disability affected her sense of balance. Wu's grandmother read online that horseback riding can help with this, so she signed her granddaughter up for classes. Keeping her balance wasn't the only challenge Wu faced as she learned to ride. Her hearing impairment also meant she couldn't anticipate sounds that might scare her horse.
因为像敲打声，我们自己人还没有听到，但是马听到，它已经惊吓到你，人会掉下来。但是如果敲打声我们已经听到了，马也听到，我们可以去控制它，不要掉下来。
Despite the challenges, Wu didn't give up on riding. Instead, she found new ways to communicate with her horse. When she was in the 6th grade, she decided to commit herself to equestrian sports. Wu is now in the 9th grade. She travels between Yilan County in eastern Taiwan and New Taipei City 4 times a week to work with her coach.
说刚来的时候他都不回答不讲话，后来才知道他耳朵不好，后来带了助听器跟他讲话。老师教他的时候，刚开始是说，他都不会回答。
Wu's coach speaks to her through a device that feeds directly into her implant. That's how she receives feedback from him. Her hard work and dedication are paying off. Recently, she won a national equestrian competition, beating out other junior high schoolers in her category. What started out as a way for Wu to manage her hearing difficulties has now become her passion. Patrick Sun and Leslie Liao for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. Finally, we leave you with images of a moose sneaking into a movie theater in Alaska to snack on popcorn and candy. I'm Ethan. Take care, and I'll see you next time.
In the face of adversity, the power of truth.
A roadmap for a just and open world, charted by the freest country in Asia.
For TaiwanPlus.
TaiwanPlus News, a voice of freedom in Asia.